I think diabetes has an image problem. Everybody knows somebody with diabetes, but I think most people in the general public underestimate the impact that it has. So I'm Peter Senior. I'm the director of the Alberta Diabetes Institute. In my other day job, I am an endocrinologist who looks after people with diabetes.
I'm Lindsay Burnham. I'm the executive director of the Alberta Diabetes Foundation. So we're an organization that raises funds for the important research happening in the diabetes space here in Alberta to support Alberta-based researchers. So all the funds raised here stays here, which I think is unique and really an amazing thing our organization does.
If I was raising for heart attacks or for cancer, no problem. Everyone realized they're a big problem. But I think often people think, well, it's just diabetes, it's not too bad, is it? And one of the things I've often thought about trying to frame this is that, diabetes is sort of the roots of the tree, and the fruit that diabetes can bear is heart attacks, strokes, cancer.
The vascular complications, unfortunately, that these individuals are prone to, whether it be heart disease, kidney disease, limb amputations, neuropathy.
I've had a career in healthcare philanthropy for most of my life, and I came from the Kidney Foundation. I was there about 12 years, and many of the kidney patients I interfaced with had this other comorbidity, diabetes.
So if we're worried about heart attacks, strokes, and cancer, which again, I think we all are, let's move upstream. Can we tackle the root cause of many of those?
I know that that's going to help all the other people that I've come across over my career, all those kidney patients, all the people like my sister who have diabetes, and it goes on to affect other parts of their life, mental health.
And again, this is one of the things I'd say, look, diabetes is an important disease because it impacts how people live right now, but it impacts their future health for years to come.
Stopping all the secondary complications associated with the disease has profound impact on quality of life, but also a burden on healthcare systems as well.
The burden for individuals, we see the burden of care, we see the burden of financial expense for dealing with heart attacks, strokes, kidney failure, and again, diabetes is the big driver. So if we can move upstream and tackle the root cause, that would be an attractive strategy from my point of view.
For the first time, I remember seeing the blood glucose traces of a mouse that we made diabetic, and then we transplanted human islets into this mouse, and within days, the blood sugar came down to a normal level. And I will always remember that experience. And little did I know that the translation of having a durable cell therapy from that mouse to humans was a little bit more complicated, but it's really driven a passion to this day.
Again, I think really successful researchers are people who have a legacy in terms of training the next generation and having kind of researchers go forth from here, trained in diabetes with a passion, with skills, with international networks. They can really make things happen.
So one of the things that's really important to the Alberta Diabetes Foundation is looking at funding the next generation. So funding the future, really, of diabetes research here in Alberta.
Support from ADF has been really vital. It's helped fund our studentships to attract and retain good junior researchers. It's then helped them advance their career with more career awards.
I've been very fortunate to be supported by the ADF as a trainee, as a postdoctoral fellow, as an early career investigator, as well as a primary investigator through research projects and equipment grants. And it's been instrumental to lay a foundation of research knowledge that I can hopefully build upon, and then also instill, like you mentioned, with students, and instill that passion for diabetes research.
And again, people who've been here as research assistants or postdoctoral fellows, again, funding from ADF has allowed us to get them into a faculty position and get them launched as independent researchers. And again, 10 years later, they're no longer new investigators, they're mid-career and senior. And so again, it's a perpetual pipeline we need to keep working on.
My name is Jasmine McGarra, and I'm a PhD candidate for the Department of Pharmacology, and I research stem cell-derived beta cells.
So Jasmine works for Dr. Patrick McDonald, who's an incredible islet biologist here and is really looking at fundamental questions of how does an islet work?
Because in the last 5 years, there's a new discovery every week, and so it's exciting to see what is coming for diabetes treatment. I guess the more personal aspect of it is I live with type 1 diabetes, so it's interesting to kind of have a stake in a future treatment for possibly myself and other people that I know. That is the part that excites me the most. Every week, we're getting a little bit closer and a little bit closer to figuring out how to create stem cells that actually functionally work.
Without research, we'll never figure out what the root is. We'll never get to the solution. You have to do the research. Research is time-consuming and very costly. So without foundations like ours to support that work, it stalls. And we can't let it stall.
I think philanthropy can be a key catalyst to kind of plug the gaps, fill the holes, enable us to maybe give people chances to, I guess, de-risk the funding that might be required either by a university or other granting agencies.
We're using something called single-cell patch clamp or electrophysiology. And what this does is it allows you to read the electrical recordings of cells. But nobody had ever patched these stem cell-derived beta cells in my lab. And so like the biggest aha moment was we were getting ready to just like drop the project. And then we figured out that we can actually very reliably record electrical impulses from these cells. I think it was about 100 tries. Like, I don't think I'm exaggerating that. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna try one more thing. And the only reason I was able to do that is because our lab had a little bit more funding at the time. And that one thing ended up being the thing that allowed us to be able to patch clamp these cells.
When we think about insulin, if the individuals who found that, if Banting and Best didn't have the funding, didn't have the time, and gave up, where would we be today? That next breakthrough is literally around the corner, but it's going to take time and it's going to take investment.
You don't know if you're gonna miss something. You don't know if you're like one step away from that discovery, but you just didn't have the money to be able to do it.
Hayden was diagnosed about a month after we had our younger daughter. So my name is Michelle.
My name is Hayden. My name is Lily.
And I'm Jesse.
We're the Edmonton family.
I don't like getting needles, and I don't have any needles anymore. Now I have a Dexcom and a call.
She was starting to display the classic symptoms like peeing very frequently, but she was also 1.5 and just starting to potty train. So it wasn't abnormal. She was wetting the bed, but peeing through the diapers. Again, nothing that really concerned us. She was starting to become a little bit more lethargic. And it was actually my mom who had remembered a commercial from when she was a child outlining all of the symptoms of type 1. And she said, I really think you need to push for this. She's kind of displaying all these classic symptoms, and now she's starting to get very thirsty. We ended up taking her to Emerge, and I'll never forget the moment. We were ushered into Emerge with our newborn baby and our toddler, and the nurse was very, adamant that something seemed off. And he said, I'll be right back. And he came right back with a finger poker and did a test. And his exact words were, oh shit. And he left immediately and came back with the physician who delivered the diagnosis right away. And we were then transferred via ambulance to the Children's Hospital.
But you can't.
You want to touch the line, right?
No.
Yeah, it's difficult because she's still learning her numbers, and she's still trying to capture the dexterity of her fingers, and she doesn't love it. Like, the finger pokes are maybe one of the easier parts of it compared to her Dexcom insertions or her pod insertions, but after she has to have like 5 or 6 in the middle of the night, she's not too big of a fan. So the fact that today she showed you how to do it, that's a big milestone for us to achieve, because it also shows us that she can take some ownership over her diabetes management. And she also feels a little bit of a sense of control, because I think that's very difficult for any type 1 diabetic, is they feel like sometimes things are out of their own control. And that's tough for her to capture even at such a young age.
Now we need to throw this in.
That's right. Can you throw this out too, please, Aiden? What kind of snacks do you got in there?
To cover my pot. And then this is one of my...
Yep.
It's something when I go very low, I put it in my nose and then I press one of the buttons.
That's right.
What do you have to take if you're low? What kind of snacks do you got in there?
Some juice, granola. I have some gummies, fruit water. I have some granola.
Really good mix of snacks, eh?
Yeah.
And I have some candy.
Yeah.
I might take that out.
Oh,
Sorry, I'm crying.
Um,
My greatest fear is that she'll feel different or feel
The
left out
setbacks.
or
the setbacks.
have a setback because of it. And we
Yeah.
don't want that. We want her to live the life that she would live if she didn't have this diagnosis.
Biggest fear that I have is that Hayden one day may have to make that choice of like,
Which job am I gonna take?
which job am I gonna take, rather than, you know, like just wanting to take the job that she really wants to take, but it doesn't have benefits and it doesn't cover her medical supplies. And it, you know, I guess thank you to everybody who's attending this gala and to all the potential donors. I mean, you know, as cheesy as it sounds, every dollar that is donated is a dollar closer to fixing this problem for us, fixing this problem for thousands of other families. And
That, I think, is the thing that I would say. There is hope, there's progress, there's innovations and understanding that we never thought was possible. The Edmonton Protocol was a paradigm shift and a huge step forward. But without investment in research, the only thing I can guarantee is that we will not move forward. And I think the key thing is, do you want to be on the team? I think betting on one number on the roulette wheel and thinking that's going to be the cure is a little bit naive. It's going to be like, do you want to be part of a team that's working and is connected with international partners, and together we can move the needle forward on this huge, huge problem? You know, I think we're taking the next step. We're not at the end of the journey yet. Donors have a role to play, government has a role to play, industry has a role to play, and I think the smart people are going to be thinking, how do we partner and leverage the investment?
And that's why all the people supporting the event or the organization can also play a role. You can be partners with us in helping to get that next breakthrough. Okay, so you've heard all we've had to say. Now it's your chance to take a stand. Will you join us tonight and fund the future of diabetes research right here in Alberta?